Okay, I'm doing this in one take and one take only, but here we go. So these are the 10 tips I have for you to learn Portuguese in 2 months.
Ah, caralho, aqui estamos no Brasil, no Rio de Janeiro. Estamos aqui com o professor Marques. Agora vamos a viajar a Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro. Então, o que vamos fazer ali?
Não sabemos ainda.
E aí, irmão, tranquilo. E a pessoa responde como? Tranquilo, e você? É isso? Isso.
Here we go. Tip number 1. Get a private tutor online. So I used Preply. That was a website where you can find tutors not from Portuguese but from other languages too, like French, German, Spanish, from all over the world. And it's pretty cool because these are English-speaking tutors that are from the native country itself. And so for me, I got a tutor from Brazil. So she lived there, she worked there, and she gave classes, online classes through there. So it's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure there are other websites, but I was familiarized with Preply. I just Googled it, it came up, and I took it. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good format. So I would start there. These tutors are relatively affordable. They range from like $10 to $30, and the more expensive, the more quality and the more experienced the tutor is. And I think I paid about $15 an hour for mine. Okay, tip number 2. Let's come out here. Tip number 2. Set a schedule. So for 2 months, I set a schedule. The first month I did bi-weekly lessons. So twice a week for 1 hour each session. By the second month, I started doing tri-weekly sessions. And the more automated you make the sessions, the better. Therefore, you don't have to worry about scheduling every single week like I did. But if there's a way you can just automatically make a lesson reoccur on a Tuesday or on a Thursday at the same time. And I highly recommend that. I wish I did that. So a tip for you. Step number 3. Step number 3 is key, okay? So tip number 3 is to record each lesson. If you're gonna be doing it online, there's ways to record it on your computer. If you're gonna be doing it in person, you can record it on your phone with a microphone. But step number 3, this is very key, is to record each lesson and review it. Reviewing it is key. So reviewing is a massive step in learning. Reviewing is where your brain actually starts to put things together and understand. I think about learning and going to a lesson and reviewing like painting, okay? So the lesson itself is like the first coat of primer paint on a wall, right? When you're gonna paint, you first put a primer, which is typically white, and that's like the first coat of painting. And then reviewing the lesson is like actually putting the decorative color paint on the wall. And so you go to the lesson, that's the review, that's a primer. And then when you review it, you're actually putting the real paint on there. So after every lesson, I had it recorded and I would review it. I would review it either right away after the lesson ended or either that same day later on at night. the sooner you review the lesson after it's done, the better. The better your brain retains it, the better your brain synthesizes it, the better you learn. Okay? Step number 4 is to take notes, of course, as you review. So what I did was I used digital notes. So I would take notes on my laptop. I would have the lesson recorded on one half of the screen, and on the other half of the screen, I had my notepad. And so I would take digital notes. This is the first time I did digital notes. Usually I take them on paper, but digital notes were effective because I could type the notes really quickly, and I can move around notes fairly quickly compared to just having them on written down. So that's what I did. All right, step number 5. So this is where we get into the technical part of learning a new language. And so tip number 5 would be to memorize the main verbs and their conjugates. Every language has main verbs. Main verbs include to be, to go, to want, to talk, to stay, to eat. And so once you have mastered these 5 or 6 main verbs in a language and their conjugates, then you can start to put sentences, everyday sentences together, and then you can actually start practicing talking. So I would memorize those 5 or 6 verbs first because they're the ones that you're going to be using a lot, and their conjugates. Okay, so that's step number 5. Step number 6 is using flashcards. This is also a key step. So what I did was I would write down the 6 or 7 main verbs and their conjugates on flashcards, and I would memorize these verbs on my downtime, whether it be waiting in line at a store, whether it be a downtime at my job, whether it be maybe late at night, not having nothing to do. I would just pull them out and quickly review. And so what does writing these verbs on a flashcard do? So it makes your time very effective, and it refreshes your brain throughout the day. The more you refresh something to your brain, the more your brain retains it. So what did I do? So I wrote them down on a flashcard, and actually I was kind of lucky with the timing because I learned Portuguese during the summer, and if you don't know, I'm an engineer, and during the summer I have a lot of field work, and a lot of times I'm waiting for the contractor either to perform his job, and so I'm overseeing that, just waiting on him. And as I'm waiting for him or waiting for the contractor, I'm reviewing my notes. I'm reviewing the flashcards. Flashcards are very small, so I can just pull them out real quick, go through them, and when contractor is ready to go, I can just put them away easily. And at least, I guess, 1 minute every 30 minutes or 1 minute every hour goes a long way. Because again, the more you refresh these topics, the better your brain retains it. Okay, so step number six was use flashcards. Step number 7, listen to podcasts in that language as you drive. And I did this for when I was learning Brazilian Portuguese. I had a list of podcasts I wanted to listen, and automatically as I went into my car, I was driving from one place to another, I put them on, and I was just listening to Portuguese people, Brazilian people talk Portuguese in the background. And your brain kind of picks up words here and there as you're driving, So that's another way to use your time as you're driving and learning a new language. Also, podcasts are typically free. If you have an Apple iPhone, I usually just go to the Apple podcast app, and I search for Portuguese, and a whole bunch of Portuguese podcasts show up. And there's even podcasts that tailor to learning Brazilian Portuguese. So I would listen to those. Step number 8 is set a goal. So when I first picked up Portuguese, I set a goal, right? Because I was going to Brazil. So I knew when my date was for Brazil, and I set it on my calendar. And that served as a big motivation, because when I saw that date on my calendar, it motivated me to learn, to put in the work, to learn as much as I can before I left to the trip. So step number 8 is set the goal with a specific date on your calendar. Step number 9 is practice. Don't be afraid. Once you start to learn and pick up some words, don't be afraid to talk it out, to put yourself out there, and to kind of a good way to put it is to throw yourself in the deep end of the pool without really knowing how to swim. And so the more you do that, the more it forces your brain to learn and to really pick up a language. So I remember I towards the end of my lessons, I really pleaded my instructor to just practice with me. And so I would practice, and even though I sucked those first couple of lessons while I would practice with her, she would correct me along the way. She would correct me on things that I needed. And so I think that went a long way, because you will never be perfect. You will never be perfect or never be ready enough to start doing something. You just have to do it and correct along the way. And just don't be afraid. Have confidence that you will learn and be better as you do things. Last but not least, step number 10 is you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. I'm not saying you got to put in 10,000 hours. I'm not saying you got to time yourself. I'm just saying you got to put in the work. The more focused you are, the more focused you are in a task, which means taking out as many distractions as possible, the less time it's going to take for you to learn something, to pick it up. So if I were you, I would just study or learn or take lessons in a quiet area where there are no distractions, and put in the work. It takes effort. It takes effort. Going to your classes, reviewing those lectures, and practicing. So that takes work, and you're not gonna learn it if you don't put in the effort. Okay, so those are the 10 tips for me. Caveats. All right. So I learned Portuguese in 2 months, but also because I also speak Spanish. So I'm Mexican. I have a Mexican background, and I'm a Spanish native speaker. So Spanish and Portuguese go really hand in hand. They both come from the Latin language. So so that helps a lot. That helps a lot. Portuguese and Spanish are very similar. So I was able to learn it really quickly because I also knew Spanish from my upbringing. However, don't let that discourage you if you don't speak Spanish. I bet you can learn Portuguese or any other language if you just put in the effort, right? If you put in the effort. Okay. Another caveat is that I also learned French in high school. I took 4 years of French in high school, and what did that help me in? That helped me in the formatting and the organization of learning a new language. Since I didn't grow up speaking French, this new language, when I learned it, allowed me to learn the formatting and the organization of learning a new language. For example, like the conjugate verbs, knowing which conjugate verbs to look for and how to learn my conjugate verbs. And so yeah, I think caveats for me were that I learned I learned French in high school, and I'm a native Spanish speaker. Anyways, don't let those discourage you. If you put in the effort, if you put in the time, you will learn the language. Okay. Anyways, those are my 10 tips. I hope you guys found value in this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of travel videos, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.